Good afternoon. We're looking forward to seeing all of our classmates at our Class of 61 virtual reunion, which will be held on June the 7th. I'm Henry Chase, and I'm looking forward to seeing you.
It's going to be at 2 o'clock on June 7th, and we hope everybody will turn out and join the Zoom reunion. I'm Irvin Duggan.
I'm Ty Finch. This is a virtual reunion, 2 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Central. Ty Finch, Class of 61, be there.
As we look back on our experience at Davidson College, we remember that time, the importance of that time as the relationships and the friendships we made with all of our classmates, and we hope all of you will be here to renew those friendships. I'm George Gable, Class of 1961.
Hello, this is Dan Boone.
And this is Richard Short, and together Dan and I are the co-ambassadors for the virtual reunion for the class of 1966.
The reunion will be held at 5 o'clock on June the 10th, and we will be induced into the avant-garde for our 55th reunion. Mean as hell.
Tough as bricks.
We're the class of 66.
Hi, this is Ted Hefner, the class secretary for the class of 1971. We want to invite you to join us on Thursday, June 10th at 5 p.m. Eastern Time for a virtual reunion. Here is some of my classmates to welcome you to that meeting.
Hi, I'm Ed Schoaf. I hope you'll be there. It'll be fun.
Hello, I'm Billy Pierce, and I look forward to seeing everyone and reconnect, not only virtually, but when we eventually have our on-campus in-person reunion.
Hello, Class of 71 Wildcats. This is Herb Clegg. Looking forward to seeing and reconnecting with you all.
Hello, good friends from the Class of 71. This is David Buck. Now that we've apparently survived COVID, most of us have retired. It's time to take a deep breath, link up together virtually, and reminisce. Hope to see you there.
Class of 81, we're ready to gather next Friday. Get ready. See all your greatest friends on the planet, your Davidson buddies. It's been 40 years. Cannot believe it. Can't wait to see everyone next Friday.
Hey everybody, it's Bear. I can't wait to see your smiling faces. I know you hate Zoom, but we're going to be out there. Build your own bonfire. Bring your own drinks next Friday. Can't wait to see you next week. Go Cats.
Go Cats, 81.
Woo!
Hey Dana, it's Ann Lambert. I'm here to welcome you to the 35th reunion of the class of 1986 of Davidson College. I'm so excited. We're going to have so many fun things at our reunion. We're going to have a cocktail party in a box. We're going to have the video from our 30th reunion. We're going to have Pat Millen asking us for money. We're going to have trivia from the 80s. It's going to be so much fun. Aren't you excited, Dana?
Yay! Go Wildcats!
Go Wildcats!
Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Maria Howell. I am Director of Alumni and Family Engagement and a proud member of the class of 1991, celebrating my 30th reunion this year. I am so pleased to be here this evening to welcome you as we kick off our celebration of the 5th through the 60th reunions. Your class volunteers have done a fabulous job of planning the reunion class events in a year of flux and masks and virtual events. Thank you for joining us to celebrate all that is special about Davidson. While this place and its buildings are important, what I have grown to know deeply this year as we all stayed apart is that it's the people and the friendships and the many memories that they evoke who are the most important and have become a part of us. We join together to renew friendships and to remind ourselves that Davidson College is home to us all. And we remember that our relationships with Davidson will last a lifetime. I hope that will be in evidence throughout the programming over the next 2 weeks. The face of Davidson may have changed since your years here, but the tradition of excellence endures. You are an important part of that tradition. We are so excited for all of the events coming up over the next 2 weeks. You saw a little bit of that based upon the videos that just came. Please visit the full reunion schedule and join us for your class gathering, the virtual cake race. You can gather a group of classmates to put your class on top for the class versus class trivia night. Watch the video of changes to campus since the last time you were on campus and participate in your class kudo board. There are some back to school classes and identity gatherings that are being offered during this time as well. Or you can go to our YouTube channel to watch some of the many fantastic back to school classes that were offered by alumni in reunion years over the past month. We are delighted that you are here and have joined us this evening. We will hear from Davidson's president, Carol Quillen, and have an opportunity for questions and answers. We'll recognize those receiving awards and we'll celebrate all reunion giving. Thank you so much for joining us. If you've not been engaged with Davidson recently, I hope that you will take this opportunity to figure out where your passions and Davidson's needs meet. For all questions or comments today, we'll be using Zoom's chat function. Click the chat button that you'll see at the bottom center of your screen. A white window will show up on the right side of your screen where you'll be able to type your question to President Quillen. At the conclusion of her remarks, I'll come back on to ask as many of those questions as I can. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Carol Quillen. She's led Davidson College in developing among its students the qualities desperately needed in our world today: leadership, integrity, curiosity, and empathy. Under her guidance, Davidson is creating a new model for higher education in an increasingly interconnected world. She has affirmed Davidson's commitment to educational excellence by cultivating partnerships that help identify students from all backgrounds whose talents enrich the community and whose leadership as graduates will transform the world. President Quillen was appointed to the Advisory Council on Financial Capability for Young Americans, and her peers have placed her on the board of directors of the American Council on Education and in leadership roles with the NCAA and the National Humanities Center. Will you please join me in welcoming Dr. Carol Quillen?
Thank you so much, Maria. Thank you all for being here. We are so excited to be with you this evening, and I know you're looking forward to the events over the next 2 weeks. I really wish we could be together in person. You could see this beautiful campus, which is at one of those times of year where everything is blooming and the campus is just beautiful. And I look forward to a time when we can be together. If it's okay with you all, and probably even if it's not, I'm going to share my screen and do a quick presentation to give a kind of summary of the year and where we are, some updates on campus. I'll try to be as brief as possible so that we have plenty of time for your questions. I always learn so much when I'm able to engage with Davidson people, both about Davidson and about the direction that the college should move in. So thank you very much for being here. And now, assuming my meager technological skills don't fail me, I'm going to share my screen and run through a quick presentation. Happy to have you all here. I hope you all can see that. I'm assuming someone will let me know if you can't. And welcome to Davidson, 2 weeks of Davidson Reunion. This was a year like none we've ever seen before. We have never obviously lived through this global pandemic. Our year looked like this. Students adapted, plays and projects. We found more ways to be together outside. We managed through it all to host a national news program. Our innovations in research received national attention. We learned a lot by being together as we muscled through frustrating restrictions, the deep uncertainty that the pandemic caused, and we worked hard to keep each other safe. We had moments of triumph, moments of fear, moments of feeling isolated, and through it all, we were together. And I just want to point out a few of the things that we were able to do this year that made that possible. Our library and technology and innovation staff hosted a special digital learning institute for our faculty so that they were able to teach both in person and remotely and serve all of our students. Some of our students were on campus, some of our students were remote, some of our students were living in town. That is a difficult context in which to teach, and the Digital Learning Institute enabled our faculty members to make sure that we were able to assist all of our students in developing humane instincts and disciplined and creative minds. We figured out ways to stay connected. You see on this slide one scene from a theater presentation where the audience remained in their cars and drove by different sites on campus to see the different scenes in this play. Our students performed outside, we had classes outside, we did something called Cold Open, which was basically a Zoom open mic night with guest appearances by artists, nationally famous artists, every Tuesday night. So there were ways that we could stay connected even though we couldn't be together as we normally are. This is what the year looked like for us. Testing, reconfigurations of space. We worked with the town and the county and with state health and human services staff. We formed special COVID teams to look at specific problems. We held 2 vaccination clinics in partnership with Atrium and with the town and the county. And it was an amazing effort for us to be together. These signs, "Don't get caught with your mask down," went up all over campus. And they allowed us to find a little humor even in the midst of the difficulty of COVID. We really had to adapt to what we were doing, and it took an amazing effort. The testing that we did and the reconfiguring of spaces, the moving of indoor activities outdoors. We created fitness centers outdoors. Our student athletes worked out outdoors. We transformed resident halls and the guest house into quarantine and isolation spaces. Everyone on campus did a job other than the job they normally do. Sissy Lyles became a quarantine and isolation coordinator. She normally runs the guest house. Tim Stroud delivered quarantine food all over Davidson. He normally works at the Union. We had Professor Brad Johnson, who was a driver for quarantine food. Many faculty and staff volunteered at the testing site, which is what enabled us to test students once a week in the fall and twice a week in the spring. We spent roughly $10 million, largely on testing, to make it possible for us to be together. And we offset that by cutting expenses, freezing salaries, making use of some federal programs, and especially through the generosity of alums like you. We could not have been here together without you, and our gratitude on campus is boundless. In spite of it all, in spite of COVID, we continue to do the work of the college. Our students, as always, excel in everything that they do. We had Goldwater Fellowships. These are fellowships offered to young scientists to support their research. Andrea doing targeted cancer therapy research, Paul working on Alzheimer's. We had students win nationally competitive fellowships, Langston Stevens, who ran track at Davidson, won a Watson Fellowship. Dahlia is our Smith Fellow. She'll be in London studying the Middle East and especially languages. We had a Schwartzman Scholar, Lorena James, who is a budding entrepreneur, already has a patent under her belt and is starting 2 additional companies. We were a top producer of Fulbrights, 6th in the nation. So we continue to do the work of the college of educating our students and preparing them for lives of leadership and service. And they have done amazing things. I want to give you just a sense of what our students will be doing post-Davidson. Some of our incredible students. So Helena Phillips, who graduated this year, will be working at the National Institute of Health before moving on to Carnegie Mellon, where she'll pursue a graduate degree in healthcare policy. Alana Davidson, who played basketball here at Davidson, will be spending the year also at the NIH doing genomics research. We have students who were hired into tech startups, including Amazon and Google and Amino Labs. We have students going to consulting at McKinsey and Bain and Inspiratus. Our baseball player, Luke Burton, wants to start his own baseball league in Dubai, and he's going to learn how to do that with his work at Inspiratus Consulting. We have students going into finance at Bank of America, Fidelity, Ally Bank, students going into business for consumer products. We have students going directly into national and public service with Max Mead and Pat Tabor becoming Army officers, Gordon Sandorf becoming a Navy officer, Tess Riemann working at the United Nations Foundation. TJ Elliott is going to work at Teach for America. So our students are continuing to excel both at Davidson and then after they leave, getting the job or the opportunity of their choice. And I'm really, really proud of them, especially in this incredibly difficult year. We managed to play all of our sports in the spring semester. Fall sports were deferred to the spring semester, and we were playing all of our sports in the winter and spring. That was an incredible amount of work for the athletics department. All of our scholar athletes were tested 3 times a week. And so this added additional logistics challenge to our athletics department. And they did an amazing job. And we had a lot of incredible success. 4 coaches of the year: football, lacrosse, golf, and women's soccer. Football won the Pioneer League, first postseason appearance in 50 years. We were the A10 champions in golf. Women's soccer made the final in their tournament, and lacrosse made it to the tournament and the semifinals and was defeated by the team that eventually won the tournament. Next year, we have an Olympic kayaker joining us in the class of 2025. And she'll be at the Tokyo Olympics before coming to Davidson. And again, our student athletes do amazing things while they're here and after they leave Davidson. And a number of them will continue their education. Kelly Fitzgerald played women's basketball. She'll be pursuing a JD and an MBA at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. We have a men's diver, Daniel Valmasi, who's going to Virginia Tech to get a PhD in physics. Andrew Brantley, who played football here, will be at Duke, getting a master's at the Nicholas School of the Environment. So our students do incredible work while they're here, and they're able to get the opportunity that they want when they leave. And that is due in large part to our amazing faculty who continue to deliver an amazing Davidson education under the most difficult of circumstances. Our students tackled big problems while they were here. They looked around and they saw that the world needed them, and they gave back to the world. Our students took the lead in acting on some of the recommendations on the Commission on Race and Slavery, and several of our students, including the football team that's pictured here, started their own initiatives to address issues of injustice and inequality. We had a faculty member, Chris Marsicano, who started the College Crisis Initiative using students as researchers. So our students were doing the research to gather how different colleges and universities across the country were responding to COVID. And Chris and our students built a database that was used nationally by the CDC and by the Chronicle of Higher Education to chart how higher ed was dealing with COVID. It's an incredibly useful tool, and I know Chris wants to continue that work, thinking about how colleges and universities respond to other kinds of crises. Our deliberative citizenship initiative really took off this year. This is an initiative that recognizes that the country is polarized and that if we want to perpetuate a democratic republic, we need to learn how to engage with one another in a way that is respectful and also exercises the practices of democratic citizenship. So you can think about a conversation with someone with whom you disagree as a debate where there's a winner and a loser. Or you can think about that conversation as an opportunity to learn something that you didn't know before. And if you both approach it in that way, you may come up with a solution or an idea that neither one of you had thought of before that. That's democratic deliberation at its best, where through the deliberative process, we learn things that we didn't know before and we make better decisions as a society. So that initiative really took off this year, and I'm proud that Davidson and grateful that Davidson is a place where that kind of thing can happen. So even though we were, in the midst of this global pandemic, our students were looking outwards beyond themselves, thinking about the community. In fall, we're really, really hopeful that we'll be fully in person, and that is our expectation. Our students are overwhelmingly getting vaccinated. The students who are here this summer, 97% of them are vaccinated. Faculty and staff are getting vaccinated. Our faculty intend to teach in person, and we're so excited to be together again in this face-to-face context. Students are able to entertain the idea of studying internationally, although that will depend on the conditions in the country where they wish to go and our own sense of the fragility of the healthcare systems around the world. We don't want to in any way stress already fragile healthcare systems. So we're really looking forward to a fall that will feel quasi-normal, to getting reacquainted, to seeing people's faces again without those masks, and are very excited about that. The class of 2025 is exciting. We had a record number of applications. They were up 15% despite the pandemic, really high yield on those applications of students who were admitted. And the shift to virtual recruiting really unlocked tools that we expect that we'll continue to use. The idea of smart, driven, and kind appealed to applicants this year. And this is how we describe Davidson students and how they describe themselves. For the first time, Davidson was test optional, in part because access to testing was really difficult in the pandemic. And we'll continue that for a couple of years. It's a 3-year experiment. So under very difficult circumstances, our admission team did an amazing job in shifting from a style of recruiting that depends on students being able to be at Davidson to virtual recruiting and manage to retain their ability to connect with potential students at Davidson. It was a really glorious moment when we could be together for an in-person commencement. I can't really express the joy that we felt in Richardson Stadium when our faculty and our students walked into that stadium with family members sitting in the stands and on the field, and we were able to be together. I loved being able to congratulate each student as the students walked across the stage, and felt so grateful to the team of folks here at Davidson that made that in-person commencement possible. Thank you so much for listening to this brief presentation. I will stop sharing my screen and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you so much, President Quillen. And thank you so much. If you would like, make sure that we've got several questions that have been posed to us, but if you would like to, there's still time to write your question into the chat. I'm going to start with the first question that came to us, which you'll be shocked to hear. Will there be an in-person reunion when it's safe within the next 5 years? This is from Jay, class of 2016.
Yes, I mean, I think there will be, our class of 2020 hasn't had their in-person moment of commencement yet. And our assessment of their desire was that they wanted to do that post-COVID. So they are fully expecting a reunion commencement event in 2022. And I see no reason why we can't have reunions in person as soon as we possibly can, and hopefully next year.
Great. Bob from my class, 1991, asked, what lessons are students learning now in the midst of the pandemic that will help them lead their communities, the country, and the world through the next crisis?
I think they're learning a lot of things. I would focus on, at commencement, I mentioned to the students, that we've, in this year, we've experienced difficult feelings. We felt extraordinary loss. We had a sense of isolation and a sense of helplessness. And I think for our students, a lesson there is that there are a lot of people who feel like that all the time. And the capacity to have empathy, to remember one's own experiences of helplessness and isolation, and just this enormous sense of loss, and how one worked through that. I think that expands our capacity for empathy. I think that cultivates robust humane instincts and equips us to lead, particularly at a time when the country is so divided. So I hope they carry with them both a memory of those hard feelings and the sense of their own resiliency as they move into the world to serve their communities.
Thank you. Edwin, class of 1971, asked, Dr. Quillen, the inequities in women's sports have been in the news. How does Davidson promote equity for women in sports?
It's a good question. We're actually doing an equity study in athletics right now to identify things that we could do more effectively to support our women scholar athletes and all of our athletes. And so we're looking at things like access to resources, access, investment in personnel, access to trainers, things like that. Because Davidson shares a lot of those facilities, there's some equitable access to resources, but in terms of the investment that we make in these sports, we want to make sure that we're doing that in a fair and equitable way. So Chris Clooney, that was one of his first questions he had when he got here, and we've engaged a consultant that I know from the NCAA and that Chris knows, a lawyer. She's incredible, and she's very experienced at doing these studies, and she's doing a study at Davidson right now. And we look forward to receiving her report. And the NCAA is also doing a study of equity with women's sports. So thank you for that question. It's an important one.
Thanks. Jonathan, AKA Bear, class of 1981, asks, can you elaborate on what a 49% yield means and how does it compare to previous results? Talking about the class of 2025.
Yeah, so that's the percentage of students who are admitted who attend, and that's a very high number nationally, and it's high for it's Davidson is always high, and this is in part because Davidson, if you know Chris Gruber, you know that he has no interest in accepting applications just so he can reject people. His approach is, I'm going to go out there and find students for whom Davidson would be a great place and persuade them to apply to Davidson. And these students have a wide range of choices, right? These are students that can normally go to every school to which they apply. And Chris views his job as to interest them in Davidson and persuade them that Davidson would be a good place. So his focus is always on recruiting students for whom Davidson is a great place and helping those students make the decision to come here. So I think, as I recall, 49% is a slightly higher yield than last year, if I'm remembering correctly. I don't have the number right in front of me. And it's a high yield nationally for schools like Davidson. The highest yields are the schools with the lowest admit rate. So Harvard, Princeton have higher yields, but that yield for Davidson it's a very impressive achievement for admission.
Right. Mika in the class of 1991 asked, how have international students been affected by COVID-19, probably at Davidson?
Yeah, international students have been really seriously affected by COVID in a number of ways. We had international students who weren't able to go home at all, and they haven't been home since the initial global pandemic was declared a year ago, March. So it's been a while since they've been home. It's very difficult for incoming international students to acquire the visa they need to enter the United States. Access to vaccines in some places is difficult, and the consulates are closed. So we have a strategy for ensuring that our international students have access to a high quality Davidson education. Our hope is that the vast majority of our international students will be able to be here, and that we're reaching out now individually to each one who doesn't yet have a visa to find out if there are ways that we can help.
Great, and along those lines, one of the next questions is, how do you judge whether study abroad is safe? What sort of data and benchmarking do you use? And that's from Marshall.
So we have a guide. We follow the State Department. We have pre-COVID. We follow the State Department guidelines. So if the State Department has a country at a level 3 or 4, we generally won't send students there because the State Department has issued pretty strict travel advisories. So we're following those rules now, and the State Department has adopted some of the CDC guidelines that reflect the COVID situation in those countries. But we are looking at many of these things on a case-by-case basis, and it has to do with things like the vaccination status of the student, the conditions in the country or the region or the city where the student is going, the nature of the healthcare system in that region, because we don't want to stress that system, and the confidence that we have that our student will be able to return when the student wishes to return. So it's a number of things. Our students are fearless and they will go anywhere. And so we do want to be a check on that young person fearlessness. And we're mindful of our obligation to the rest of the world, right? And you know, we all have access to this vaccine. We're in this very fortunate position, and we don't want to do anything that stresses other more fragile healthcare systems. I hope that answers your question.
I think so. Well, questions are rolling in, so this is great. Keith from the class of 1971 asked, the Board of Trustees recently amended the college bylaws to allow non-Presbyterians, even non-Christians, to serve as president of the college, and to allow more non-Christians to serve on the board. Why were these changes made, and will Davidson always be a Presbyterian college?
So I can answer that question for my as one person. I don't want to speak for the board. It's not my place to speak for the board, but I'll give the best answer that I can. Why were these changes made? As I see it, what the board chose to do was to define the qualifications for the president in terms of the statement of purpose. So the statement of purpose outlines a set of beliefs out of which come certain values, and the values are the values that we live out here at Davidson. And the board chose to define the qualifications for the president in terms of that statement of purpose, so the president must affirm, uphold, and has responsibility for achieving the statement of purpose, rather than in terms of religious affiliation. It is more specific to do it that way than to do it in terms of religious affiliation. And for the board, I think the board was reflecting the value of having a wide range of opinion in a decision-making body, and the broad diversity of students and graduates of Davidson, and wanting to make sure that students and alums from Davidson felt like they had an opportunity, should they wish, and if they were qualified to serve on the Board of Trustees. The board reaffirmed the statement of purpose. The board left in place the requirement that 25% of the board be Presbyterian, and the board also inserted into the bylaws the requirement that there be a significant presence of Christians on the board. Will Davidson always be a Presbyterian school? Yes, because the ways in which our culture, the campus ethos reflects the convictions and the imperatives of faith that were there at the founding of the institution. Many people believe that Davidson is living into its ties to the Reformed tradition by making these changes. Not everybody thinks that, but there are a lot of Presbyterians who see this as a way of living into the convictions and the imperatives of the Reformed tradition, and particularly PCUSA. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. On a slightly different note, Gary Wheeler from Class of 91 asked, how is Davidson handling the transition from being almost a rural campus in 1991 to being a suburban one today?
That's a really interesting question. I think there are many wonderful things about our close connection to Charlotte and the ways in which our students are able to work in Charlotte, even during the school year. They have opportunities for internships and research and service, which are, numerous here in our town and also in Charlotte as well. So that part I think is good. We have, I think, for a long time assumed that that Davidson was a place where everyone who walks onto the campus understands the ethos of Davidson, understands the honor code, understands the community of trust that we try to build, and that I think is a little bit of a challenge. We're much more. There's just a lot more people coming on and off campus, and it's not, I think that's a little bit of a challenge, especially in the current environment. So I think we're reckoning with the realities of not being an isolated campus, and also wanting to hold on to and committed to holding on to the sense of trust and this sense of integrity that the honor code has promoted at Davidson.
Thank you. A dual question, two people asked. Jim, Class of 66, and Dudley, Class of 91, asked about students and faculty getting vaccinated. Is Davidson requiring vaccines? And if not, why not, when so many other colleges have?
So that's a really good question. So we haven't required it yet. We're not opposed to requiring it. And I will say that thus far, our best strategy with our students has been to work with them as allies and use them as ambassadors to get other students to get vaccinated. So there's very little vaccine resistance in our population. And we found that when we engage our students as allies and partners, it's actually a more effective strategy than requiring it. So like I said, 97%, and it's probably higher than that now, of our students living on campus are vaccinated. We saw eagerness on the part of our students to get vaccinated. We're requesting the incoming class to let us know their vaccine status. And so we think we have a plan that will work. Our goal is to have an entirely vaccinated campus, and we think this is the best strategy for getting there, is what I would say.
Thanks. Catherine Allen asked, Class of 81, given the negative economic impact of COVID-19 on many families, how is Davidson continuing efforts to make a 4-year degree affordable and debt-free?
So last year, understanding that families were facing perhaps really unexpected financial difficulties, we offered all of our families the opportunity to defer their tuition payment from the fall for a year. And, I think I think it was about 230 families took us up on that offer to defer that tuition for a year. We also did not raise tuition for the upcoming year. And we have a policy whereby families who are affected by COVID can appeal in some sense to the financial aid office to use data other than the data we would normally use to assess need. So because it all is dependent on income tax data, it can be out of date if there's a crisis in a family. So we have a mechanism for those families to request a different assessment of their financial need. I think this is going to be an issue for the next 2 years, if not for the next 2 years, because the data will be out of our practice. The data we use is out of sync with reality. And after that, we'll see what the long-term effects of this might be for some of our families.
I imagine. Jeff Lewis, class of 1991, asked that if the admission team feels that the class of 2025 illustrates the type of students Davidson can attract with test optional policies, do you see us making this a permanent change to the application process?
So when we made the change, we adopted it for 3 years, and this is a decision that for the faculty admission committee that usually weighs in on this decision. And so I think there's a good chance that we will remain test optional. But the idea was, let's do it for 3 years and see what impact it has. I think Chris would say that this year we did attract candidates that perhaps would not have applied to Davidson, really strong candidates, if we weren't test optional. Now, whether that's because of access to testing or because these students just didn't feel like that was their way to shine, I'm not sure. So we'll know more after 3 years because we'll have more data and we'll be able to figure out which is the best path forward for Davidson. But I would not be, I think there's a definite possibility that we would remain test optional.
Becca, class of 06, and Mari, class of 2011, both mentioned the challenges and the fatigue that everyone on Davidson's faculty and staff must have felt. Are there ways that alumni can further support you all as you recharge after this year? Thank you for that question.
It's a really nice question. Thank you very much for that question. I will say, just in all honesty, people are exhausted. And so we're really encouraging everyone to take a real vacation where you really are not connected at all to Davidson or work. You're really off and able to kind of reconnect with your family, do a little traveling, things that no one's been able to do, and try to kind of recover a little bit of strength and kind of stamina for the coming year, particularly folks in residence life and our student health and well-being staff. It was a very stressful year for those folks. So many faculty members had their children at home. They were homeschooling their children. They were learning a whole new way to teach. They were trying to remain connected to their advisors. Many of them were worried about their parents. So everyone is tired. Thank you goes a really long way. I know it means a lot to our team when people just say thank you for what you've done, thank you for what you're doing. It means a lot. We were able to offer a small bonus this year after having frozen salaries to everyone, just as a small thank you for the work that people did. And we're always looking for ways to support our faculty and staff. Nobody's had the opportunity really to take a break or just have a little downtime. And that's what we're working so hard to try to make sure people get. But I really appreciate the question. And I would reaching out to people and thanking them for what they're doing for Davidson goes a long way.
Great. Wellness Milner, class of 1961, asked, intercollegiate athletics are in a state of flux, with some schools actually willing to pay athletes. Davidson is one of the smallest schools in the A10 conference and reportedly has the smallest basketball budget. How do you see Davidson being competitive in the future?
So I think the best way the way that I'm starting to think about this is that for me, we need to have integrity as an educational institution. And that means that every scholar athlete, just like every student, we admit and recruit and enroll at Davidson, we need to believe that we are doing that because we are going to offer them an education. And so I think once schools start to think of themselves as something other than an educational institution, that's where the most serious kind of corruption can happen. So I'm focused less on, the pay issue exactly, and more on the integrity of our academic and educational mission. We play Division I sports because we think it has educational value. Coach McKillop's students, athletes graduate from college, and they go on to play sports, to be coaches, but we've brought them here under honest pretend, right, in an honest way. And so that's where my focus is. And I think the opportunity to pay athletes, this pay for play is potentially damaging to that system. Davidson will be competitive because our coaches attract students for whom Davidson is a really good place. Students who want to come to Davidson, who like school and want to do the work of Davidson, as well as play in their sport. And Coach McKillop has players for 4 years. He has a system that relies on developing leaders, people who become better leaders and human beings and men because they're part of his program. And that is a really appealing opportunity for the kind of person that thrives at Davidson. And all you have to do is talk to some of the students who played here, who have now graduated, and you get that sense. There are other things that I think are making competition challenging that have to do with the new transfer policies and other things. But I think what we offer talented scholar athletes at Davidson is distinctive, if not unique, and we can find students for whom that is appealing. I'm determined to raise money for athletic scholarships in all of our sports so that we can support those students in their education, and we can make Davidson a viable choice for them. I hope that answers your question.
We have time for one last question. In your opinion, what is the special sauce that makes Davidson distinctive from other small liberal arts colleges?
It's interesting. It's, I'm wordy as it is because I'm an academic, so I usually have lots of words. It's hard for me to be concise, but I think the special sauce is a combination of things. That's where I have a hard time being really specific. Obviously, the true special distinctive thing about Davidson is it's the people who come here. And we are able to attract the people who come here because each person may come here for a different reason. So some students may come here because they want a small liberal arts college. Other students may come here because they want to play their sport at an academically rigorous institution. Some students come here because they want to be in this part of the country. Some students come here because their family has deep ties to this institution. So the students come here for very different reasons, and it's the variety that makes this place, to me, special. A variety, all different backgrounds, all different beliefs, all different reasons for being here, and yet united in their talent and in their desire to be at a place with other smart, driven, kind people committed to a life of leadership and service. So it's a combination of things that allows us to attract the incredible people to Davidson, faculty, staff, and students that we're able to attract. And that's what makes Davidson different.
Thank you so much for your time tonight, President Quillen. For all of you watching, don't go anywhere. I tell the graduating students every year, you're students for 4 years and you're alumni for a lifetime. And I've had the opportunity to witness that at its best over the past year as alumni reached out to assist current students and each other, like some of the questions that you posed tonight. We look forward to welcoming you home soon. And now we want to celebrate the reunion giving, our reunion award recipients, and to hear from the rest of your class chairs. Thank you so much for joining us.
Welcome. I'm Caitlin James, Davidson College, class of 2014, and the Director of Annual Giving here at the college. I'm thrilled to be with you today to share with you some news about the generosity each reunion class has shown in honor of your milestone celebrations. Before we share the impressive totals to date, I want to remind you of the immediate, critical impact you have on Davidson students, faculty, and programs when you choose to make a gift through the Fund for Davidson. Unrestricted gifts allow the college to remain nimble. Campus leaders can designate these contributions to the most critical needs of the moment. This past year has reminded us of the importance of unrestricted giving and the donors who make the most challenging times more manageable. Scholarship support makes Davidson possible for every qualified student. We never want to lose a talented student because of the cost of attendance. When you support athletics, you take our 21 Division I programs to the next level, allowing students to compete to win against schools with more athletic scholarships and general resources. The same is true for the arts. Our scholar artists rely on your gifts to expand their experiences on and off campus as they bring their creativity and talents into the world. Diversity and inclusion gifts enrich programs that help support all students on campus and prepare them for the global society in which we live. And finally, when you give to student health and well-being, you help the college prioritize the mental and physical health of all students, no matter the need. Our community is better because of your generosity and your commitment to Davidson's future. And don't forget, if you haven't made your gift this fiscal year, you have until June 30th to ensure it counts toward your class's reunion giving totals. Help Davidson remain a leader in alumni giving participation and help prepare Davidson for continued excellence today and into the future. Let's see where each class's totals are to date. Thank you for all you give to Davidson.
The distinct honor of presenting the Alumni Awards for those in reunion classes this year. I'm pleased to start with the John W. Kirkendall Award that recognizes alumni who've provided extraordinary service to their community, demonstrating leadership through servanthood in the spirit of John W. Kirkendall, Davidson's 15th president, 1984 to 1997. This year's recipients are Anissa R. Patton, 1991, who has dedicated her life and career to social justice, education, and child welfare law. Her nominator wrote, Anissa has been a tireless leader in the fight for child welfare and justice. In addition to her many awards for the work she does on child welfare, she volunteers for nonprofit community initiatives, including the Georgia Association of Black Women Attorneys, Team Justice for Kids, and Teach for America. You and our alumni family demonstrate such a lifelong commitment to advocacy and support of the most vulnerable in our midst. We honor and remember Leanne Petty, class of 2001, who spent her life in service of others, and particularly in the city of Birmingham, Alabama, where she left a lasting legacy through her work with more community agencies than we can count. She was recognized for her work in the community when she was named in the top 40 under 40. This year, the Junior League of Birmingham held its inaugural 100 Acts of Service in her honor, highlighting the theme, #LiveLikeLeanne. The program aims to inspire area residents' involvement in charitable activities around the community. I'm now honored to announce the Distinguished Alumni Award recipients for 2021. Each year, the Board of Directors of the Alumni Association recognizes alumni who have provided leadership or attained recognition on a national or regional level within their profession or business, or who have provided extraordinary service to their community. This year's recipients are Dr. Doug Orr, class of 1961, who has provided exceptional leadership in North Carolina through his contributions to higher education, including his 15-year tenure as president of Warren Wilson College, and his work to elevate and promote the state's culture and geography. In 2006, he was recognized by the governor of North Carolina with the Order of the Longleaf Pine Award, the state's highest civilian honor given to outstanding North Carolinians who have a proven record of service to the state. Robert G. Folger, class of 1971, is a highly regarded expert in the fields of business and behavioral ethics, organizational justice, research methodology, and philosophy of science. Specifically, he's recognized for his research on motivation and reactions to work conditions, including topics such as ethical decision-making and perceptions of unfair treatment. A recent study by Stanford University listed him among the world's top 1% of scientists in business and management. Stephen Elston Rohde, class of 1971, has passionately and energetically lived out his calling to fight for environmental protections and extend the life of our planet. Steve spent more than 3 decades putting federal laws to work, battling government agencies and private industries that were pursuing environmentally destructive practices. He worked in Congress, at Earth Justice, the Ocean Law Project, and helped found Oceana. Steve now teaches courses on ocean and coastal law and policy and environmental litigation at Duke Law School and at Duke's Nicholas School of the Environment. D. Neil Hayes, class of 1991, has spent his career focused on cancer. While teaching at the UNC School of Medicine, he was named a co-principal investigator of the Cancer Genome Atlas, an international consortium managed by the National Cancer Institute and National Human Genome Research Institute. The work has been described as one of the most dramatic breakthroughs in understanding cancer to date. Neil was named a co-recipient of the 2020 Team Science Awards from the American Association for Cancer Research for his contributions to developing the Cancer Genome Atlas. Throughout her distinguished and varied career in bioethics and global public health, Cynthia Houston Castle has worked to make a difference in the world. She has received many awards for her public health work, including her contributions to maternal health and children with special healthcare needs. She was also recognized for her work on the Ebola response teams in both Sierra Leone and the Democratic Republic of Congo, and most recently for her contribution to the CDC's COVID-19 response. Each year, the Board of Directors of the Alumni Association may recognize alumni and friends of the college who have rendered and performed a high degree of service to Davidson College. This year's recipients of the Alumni Service Award are, in the 60 years since he graduated, J. Robert Bob Gordon, class of 1961, has been a pillar in his community of Laurinburg, North Carolina. In addition, he has served the college as a faithful and consistent volunteer through his service as a chapter president for the Laurinburg, North Carolina chapter on his 20th through 55th class of 1961 reunion committees, and during Bob's incredible contributions as a class ambassador from 2007 to 2017, when the class of 1961 raised $1,613,593 and averaged a whopping 74% participation. An environmental lawyer who has made a lasting difference in his community, James S. Stokes, class of 1966, has demonstrated this same level of energy, enthusiasm, and commitment through his service to Davidson. He helped establish and continues to support the H. Boyce Connell Jr. Scholarship, created in honor of his late fraternity brother. He's been a Fund for Davidson class agent for years, a member of multiple class reunion committees, a life member of the Board of Visitors, and a Davidson Connect career mentor for students and young alumni. During his impressive 40-year banking career that ended as Chief Operating Officer of First Citizens Bank in Raleigh, Edward L. Willingham IV, class of 1976, found the time to give back to Davidson. He has served as a chapter president in 2 cities, a faithful member of numerous reunion planning committees, including his 10th, 25th, 35th, and 40th, as well as chairing his 30th reunion. Ed has volunteered for the Davidson Alumni Admission Program and served his class efforts for the Fund for Davidson for more than 20 years. He served on regional committees for Davidson's capital campaign efforts and is a lifetime member of the Board of Visitors. Mr. David Waddell, class of 1981, has long had the college's best interests at heart. As a member of the Board of Trustees and chair of the Finance and Budget Committee, David offered expertise gained during his career in the finance industry, most recently with Moore Capital Management. He's been a Fund for Davidson class agent, a member of his reunion committee, and served on the Let Learning Be Cherished campaign cabinet. David served on the selection committee for the Stewart Scholarship and was a member of the Board of Visitors. His vision and generosity helped create the William Holt Terry Scholarship Program. Dana L. Lemon, class of 1986, has been recognized in the state of Georgia for her commitment to civic engagement and advocacy. Her desire to serve her community extends to alma mater. From a Fund for Davidson class agent to a member of her 20th, 30th, and 35th reunion committees, Dana has answered Davidson's every call without hesitation. She led the Atlanta alumni chapter before leading regional efforts for the college's capital campaign. Dana served on the Alumni Association board as vice president and as a decade representative. And as a longtime member and leader, Dana has been part of the growth of the Davidson Black Alumni Network and planned multiple Black alumni gatherings. Stephen Gentile, class of 2006, a chief policy officer for the Tennessee Higher Education Committee, is part of a successful team of co-class secretaries with his classmate and joint winner of this award, Molly McGowan McNulty. Stephen has served the college through roles with the Davidson Alumni Recruitment Team and the Game Changers Inspiring Leaders to Transform the World campaign advance team in Nashville. Molly McGowan McNulty, also class of 2006, an attorney, served as class ambassador to the Fund for Davidson for 14 years. During this time, she also served as a service chair for the Little Rock, Arkansas alumni chapter. Through their efforts to keep the class of 2006 connected, Molly and Stephen have chronicled both the personal and professional milestones of their classmates. Called upon as class secretaries to offer a collective voice of joy and at times grief, they put forth a moving tribute to the bonds that hold the class of 2006, to each other and to Davidson. I now have the privilege to present the Young Alumni Service Award recipients. Each year, the Board of Directors of the Alumni Association may recognize alumni and friends of the college who have rendered and performed a high degree of service to Davidson College. The Young Alumni Service Award recipients are between their years 0 and 10 of graduating from Davidson. This year's recipients are a Senior Manager, Strategic Initiatives at TIAA, Mr. Quentin Rashawn Graham, class of 2011, has stepped up to lead volunteer activities, including serving as the Young Alumni May Ultra Chair and Vice Chair, participating on his 5th reunion committee, and serving the Alumni Association board as a decade representative until 2019. His nominator wrote, "Quentin gives his all as a volunteer for the college. He's a terrific advocate for leadership giving to the college and envisions new ways to connect with peers." From their homes in Chicago, Hannah Rao, class of 2016, and Emily Rappert, class of 2016, worked together as alumni chapter co-presidents, titles they have held their entire alumni lives, to connect alumni and families in their class and in their community. They have become the go-to leaders for helping new students feel welcomed into the fold as Davidson Wildcats, and reminding alumni why alma mater holds such a special place in their hearts and lives. From happy hours to White Sox games, they're always thinking of the next great opportunity for connecting people to Davidson and to each other. Both serve as career advisors for current students and have been active participants and advocates during annual giving fundraising campaigns. I would now like to extend a hearty congratulations to all of the award recipients and congratulate them on living out Davidson's mission to lead lives of leadership and service. You have served alma mater and the greater community. Congratulations. It's always a great day to be a Wildcat.
Welcome to Reunion 2021.
I'm here in the EH Little Library, and we want to welcome you from the 30th Reunion Volunteer Committee to all of you from the class of 1991. And here's Kelly Cruz Dayton with a special invite.
And we hope that all of you classmates from a wonderful class and great class, I'll just specify that, of 91 plan to join us for our special event tomorrow at 7 o'clock.
We're so excited to connect with you this week and celebrate all our years together as proud Davidson alums.
It's a great day to be a Wildcat. 1, 2, 3, go
Cats!
Cats!
Hi, everyone. Welcome to your Reunion 2021.
A special welcome to the class of 1996 from your entire 25th Reunion Volunteer Committee.
We are so excited to connect with you this week and celebrate all of our years together as proud Davidson alums.
2020 was a horrendous year, but every day last year and every day this year is a great day to be a Wildcat and a great day to be a member of the class of 1996. Go Cats!
Come as you are.
Why?
Welcome to Reunion 2021, Wildcats.
A special welcome to the class of 2001 from your entire 20th Reunion Volunteer Committee.
We're thrilled to reconnect this week to celebrate all our years together as Davidson alums.
It's a great day to be a Wildcat.
And a member of the class of 2001.
Go
Cats!
Cats! Woo!
Hi, it's Alice,
Molly,
Cameron,
and Tessa, and we are so excited to welcome the class of 2006 to our 15th reunion.
We are so glad that we can all be together virtually and look forward to celebrating with you soon.
Hi everyone, it's your reunion committee and we're so excited to welcome the class of 2011 to our 10th reunion. We're so glad we can be together virtually and we look forward to celebrating with you.
Hey, it's Grant.
And Betsy.
And Lauren.
And Pablo. And we are so excited to welcome the class of 2016 to our 5th year reunion.
We're so glad that we can be together virtually and look forward to celebrating with you.